So, I made the decision to either review Detective Pikachu or Endgame, and after consuming like 7 reviews of Endgame, I feel like pretty much everything has already been said, but not for Detective Pikachu. I have a lot that I want to talk about, but it's a little bit disjointed, so I'm going to try something new on this channel, something that I stole from Jenny Nicholson, and that's a compliment sandwich, where I say one good thing, one bad thing, one good thing, and so on, with no particular cohesion between the importance of good and bad points. Good thing. This movie takes place in the world of Pokemon, and even though it does, it tells this really weird story that's completely on the side of everything else. There was definitely more effort put into this movie than would have just been for adapting the first episode of Pokemon, which I think would have been a very bad idea. Detective Pikachu is campy and unexpected and weird, like genuinely weird, like the way that the anime usually is. Like, yeah, the exposition is really bad in a lot of parts, like the lab scenes, but there's so much information that they have to get through, and it's almost more impressive to me that they were able to have that much information and have it still work for fans of the series and complete novices. Bad thing. This movie takes place in the world of Pokemon, and it definitely didn't need to. This movie from the beginning always felt like it didn't have to have specifically Pokemon in it. At a few parts, it was even trying to distance itself from the original source material. Rhyme City bans fighting and Pokeballs, and I completely understand why they did that, but that's still like 2 of the 3 major components of a Pokemon series, fighting and catching. It's not completely for people that are that big into Pokemon, but it's also not completely for people that aren't that big into Pokemon as well. It just finds this weird middle road that it lays in. There's also some weird things that happen that don't follow the normal Pokemon rules, like the evolution of Magikarp into Gyarados. Pikachu basically just throws it and wills it into evolving. This is obviously just a way to introduce the idea of evolution before the bad guy Bill Nye comes in and gives us a science lesson on evolution.
And if it's a stupid flash mob, nobody shows up. So then that one's eliminated. If it's big fun, like what's the one everybody likes is Thrower, dancing to Thrower.
Different Bill Nye, but that's not how evolution works in the Pokemon series. You can't just will a Pokemon into evolving. I haven't played much Pokemon past Gen 4, so I'm not like super into it, but I am into it enough to have gotten everything and been annoyed by the things that they got wrong. Like, yeah, I do appreciate that the first Pokemon movie isn't lazy in most ways, and I want to believe that the studio allowed that kind of experimentation. That's the positive part of my brain. But then the cynical part of my brain goes,
I was working with a producer named Roy Lee to secure the rights to Pokemon. I pitched to the company. They said yes. This was a little under a year ago, a little over a year ago. Then they took it to studios. There was a huge Netflix offer. The Pokemon company pulled back, and finally was like, we only want to sell one character, Detective Pikachu. I was like, well, I don't want to write that movie.
oh. I take back everything that I just said. If we were that close to having Max Landis write the first Pokemon script, then I will take this story any day. Good thing. The sincereness. This is something pulled straight from the Pokemon source material. Pokemon has always been about loving the creatures that you have, even if they kind of suck stats-wise. I'm sure that some people play by looking at the stats of all the Pokemon and catching only the best ones, but I don't know anyone who does that. My experience with Pokemon has always been you just catch the ones that you think are the cutest or the coolest, and you just create a team around the ones that you like. In the anime, Ash never evolves his Pikachu because his Pikachu never wants to be evolved, even though that would make him stronger. You catch the ones that you like, you give them nicknames, and then you sort of gain attachments to them. They were with you throughout your entire journey, and you can't just throw Terry the Tangela away because you need a Growlithe to finish your Pokedex. Honestly, when I play Pokemon Go, I don't even play any of the gyms or the raids unless I have to. I think the movie captured that emotion of adventure and companionship really well, and it didn't make fun of it. Bad thing. So, based on what I've been hearing, I feel like a lot of people didn't believe this, but I feel like those people must be lying to themselves. I don't want to assign what's true and what's not to someone else's emotions, but it took me a while after the trailers came out for me to come to terms with the idea of hyper-realistic Pokemon. This had been a trend in the fan art community for a little while, but the idea of that is that it's not supposed to look pleasant. I got over the idea of the hyper-realistic style because it looks like they're obviously doing something different from the fan art community. But can we not pretend that it doesn't look like each Pokemon needs like 2 more renderings? Here's a list of the Pokemon that I thought were designed well and rendered well at any point in the movie. Pikachu, Snubbull, That's it. All the rest of them, I thought that they either looked like they were from a Lovecraftian universe or they were dirty all the time, or both. And it's weird because all the CGI that doesn't involve the Pokemon is actually pretty good. I guess they did a pretty good job with Emolga too, but Emolga is basically just a flying Pikachu. And we may have different definitions of what good CGI should be on creatures, but basically what I'm thinking is, does this look like something that you could be tricked into thinking was a practical effect? Or something that you could realistically see yourself interacting with? Now, how about this one? How about this one? How about this one? What about this one? Okay, this one I hate. I hate this image so much you don't know. Does it look like you can walk up to that Machamp and touch it? Does it? I don't even feel that it's fair asking that question. You are lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself just because you saw the Sonic trailer. The issue is obviously in the designs. They wanted to have it all. They wanted to have it be live action and hyper realistic. Because let's be honest, I'm a fan of Pokemon and I wouldn't have even seen an animated Detective Pikachu movie, even if it was on Netflix and my only other choice was Chicken Run. But they also wanted to be a Pokemon movie, and you can't have a Pokemon movie if you only have 2 or 3 Pokemon. But having a ton of Pokemon means that you have way less time to design them so that they can seamlessly integrate into the world. And the Pokemon that they choose was sometimes a little bit weird too. You have to fully design so many creatures, and of course everyone is going to have different opinions on which ones should make the cut. But there were a few genuinely weird choices to me. Who among the staff was clamoring for us to see Pangoro in every scene? Aipom was never a super big part of the Pokemon series, and I get that they were in the game, but no one played Detective Pikachu. Sure, they put in Ludicolo, but where was Bidoof? The people are still clamoring for Gothorita. We may never get another Pokemon movie again. The creators of this movie knew that this might have been the last chance for us to ever see Probopass with grotesquely hyper-realistic nose hairs. The vocals were really good, though. I honestly want to see the movie again just so I can hear Trico's vocals again. Trico. Good thing, Trico's vocals. Bad thing, Ditto can transform into people now, and it chose to transform into Milo Yiannopoulos. Good thing, Ryan Reynolds. The voice actually goes really well with what they were trying to go for. When you bring Ryan Reynolds on for a movie, you know exactly what you're going to get. You know the quality that you're going to get from him, and if you know how to use him right, you're going to end up with a pretty good movie at the very least. Because he's really good at comedy, he's really good at avoiding cringe, and he's also just a genius marketer. Detective Pikachu knew how to use him, and they fit him in pretty well. Bad thing, Ryan Reynolds is just Ryan Reynolds. There are a few times where Ryan Reynolds makes a joke and it didn't sound like it naturally fit into the world. Like Ryan was either improvising or the writers were trying to write Ryan's improvising style. They don't always go with what's on screen, like they were out of place from what a character would normally say in that situation. I don't know this for sure, but I don't think that Ryan was in the room when they were shooting the actual scenes. And trying to coordinate a performance or a scene around someone's already pre-done take is pretty difficult. Good thing. It looks like they're doing sequels, and it also looks like the sequels aren't going to involve Detective Pikachu. At the end of the movie, we find out that Detective Pikachu was able to talk to Justice Smith because Smith's father was trapped in his Pikachu companion. Now they've been separated, and since Pikachu can't talk anymore, it'd be pretty difficult to do a direct sequel. I think this was a novel idea for a movie, but I don't think that another detective story in the world of Pokemon would be a good idea. I don't think making a trilogy out of this would be a good idea. If their idea is to make a bunch of standalone Pokemon movies, I think that's a really good idea, and it looks like that's what they're going for. There's 2 reasons that you're watching this movie. Ryan Reynolds or Pokemon. Sure, you'll lose some people by getting rid of Ryan Reynolds, but there's still so many other stories that can be told, and I still feel like the majority of even those 2 slices were from the Pokemon fans. So, that's my sandwich. If you don't think that I talked about the actual movie itself enough, I think that you're right. I've delved very deep into talking about the Pokemon, and the fact that it feels like I haven't talked very much about the movie itself, I think, is very indicative of the fact that this movie shouldn't have been about Pokemon. It felt like a typical Hollywood blockbuster just trying to cash in on a popular IP by just throwing that IP into a story that was already written. I know that's not actually what happened, but that's just what it feels like to me. Maybe next time they shouldn't begin their big tentpole franchise movie off of a game that sold less than 500,000 copies. But hey, looks like they're making money, so what do I know? It may have felt like I had more genuine negatives than positives, but I really did like this movie more than I disliked it. The fact that this went in a different direction from the obvious one really does hold a lot of weight in my mind. I had problems with it, sure, but I do think that they were able to pull off a pretty difficult feat. I'd probably give this thing a 6, but other than that, hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in another video.